Hello and welcome back to the ongoing build of this Keil Kraft Ladybird. Originally a free flight model, it's the intention to make this radio controlled. With two channel, one for the elevator and one for the rudder. I could perhaps have concentrated on just rudder control, but this model as a free flight has something of a reputation of being like a flying brick, and it would be useful, I think, to have some control over the pitch of the aircraft, especially when the engine cuts. So a two channel it's going to be. Engine will be just running. When the engine cuts, it'll glide in, hopefully, but I'll have control of the rudder and the elevator, and with the dihedral built into the wing, that'll enable me to gain control of the aircraft. So what I need to do is establish the CG. Now I had thought that because of the way this model is constructed, it's built like a tank with wings in my view, that it was going to be exceedingly tail heavy. So imagine my shock when I discovered the following. These access holes to see where the locating hooks go to pull the wings on roughly coincide with the CG. So if I pick it up at that point, very, very tail heavy, nose heavy rather. So the servos ideally need to go in the rear, and that's going to be quite constricting. So let's just pause and I'll zoom in. We'll take the wings off to make it easier to show you, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking about doing. As you can see, the tail area is quite a complicated region of the model. This is my adaptation to produce a rudder. The elevator was quite straightforward to add. None of this, of course, is glued in place yet, but access to get the servos and the push rods in is fairly restricted. It's my intention to use these 9-gram servos, I believe they are. Small, lightweight, although they're metal geared, they're not going to have a great deal of strain on them because this model is never going to be an aerobatic model. It's not going to have a great force on the control surfaces. Let's show you what I'm thinking about doing. If we ignore the lead for the moment, because there's no access for that yet, I think this is where approximately this servo is going to go, and I'm going to glue it in. I'm going to use a hot glue gun because the traditional method of mounting this via screws is totally impractical, because even if you could unscrew the servo, it would be very difficult to get the thing back out with the control horn in place. So if I ever have to remove them, I think what I'll be doing is cutting out the covering on one side here, and they'll be removed in that way, and then that would have to be patched up. But I'm hoping that that's not something I'm going to have to do, and the servos will survive for the length the model is going to survive, I would imagine. This second one's going to be a similar affair. The horn that's on will probably need to come off and a different one used. But I think in this case, it would be mounted. It's actually quite awkward with the two. Like this, perhaps. And that will allow a run to the elevator. That's one possibility, or I could mount it on its side. I think that would work. And let's try it now in terms of the CG, how it affects the CG. Whether that servo is mounted on its side, or as I've pushed it in there, it's going to be in approximately the same position. So let's see how the CG works out. If I zoom back out, just bear with me because none of this is glued in place. for good reason. And if I put the wings back on, one wing, so you can see it better, second wing, and if I now pick it up at this point, let's see where the CG comes out. Well, that is almost, well, I would say it's spot on. Of course, there's no prop on at the moment, that'll pull things down a bit, but I'll have some leeway regarding sliding the battery back and forth, which would allow fine finessing of the CG and balance point location. That I think is going to work. So I'll push ahead and we'll glue these in, and I'll perhaps video that process, and we'll think about how it's going to be covered, etc. This receiver has now gone into another model that I had planned for this, but that's going to be a negligible weight. I'll salvage it from a foam model that I don't fly very often, I think, just to get on with the build. The battery, I need a little bit more thought about that because it's going to be a lightweight small battery, but that's the balance point, and that's going to really work out rather well, I think. Let's pause it there and we'll crack on getting the glue gun ready to get everything set up. Now the glue gun is heated up and I'm about to glue it on. Get the first servo in. A word of warning, when you're using these, they are quite dangerous because the temperature of the glue that comes out is obviously hot. And ask me how I know, because I still have a scar on my leg from when I was a teenager and I was using one of these and a drop of the glue fell onto my leg. Nasty, nasty burn. Be careful. This one's handy because it comes on a separate stand. It makes it a little bit easier to use. So I'm just going to put one little drop in there, enough to hold it in. And in there, you don't have to go crazy with this, and that'll hold it. It's only moving a small surface after all. That's that one in place. I'll do the same with the second one, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the next part of the whole procedure. As I hope you can see, this is the second servo now mounted. I've made a little platform out of balsa to keep this nice and level. It's not glued in at the moment, but it's pushed in against the servo above it. I'm going to add a little drop of the glue there, and I'll turn it round. I hope you can see that. And I'll drop a little more glue here. That's going nowhere. I was tempted to wipe it with my fingers there. Would have been a smart move, wouldn't it? So the engine's still not mounted in yet, but let's just put that down. Very conscious of this being in the way, so I'm going to move it. Okay, and now if I lift it up, that's spot on. Really happy with that. If I connect it up, let's just do so with this little tester. I've routed the wires through. But they're not, they'll need extensions on them. Now if I add them into this little tester, not massively accurate, but it gives an idea. Put it down so you can see it correctly. Zoom in. There we go. Now I will have to box in a little area here and round here so that the covering has something to adhere to. I'll create a slot for this horn and this horn. But there you go, that's the radio control added. Receiver and battery to add. The battery will be used to make any fine adjustments to the weight, balance point. The size of that I'm not sure. I'm going to have a look and see what I can get away with. I want to have enough to have a day's flying. It'll either be one battery that will allow me to do that, or it might be a series of smaller batteries being changed each flight. I don't know. It's something I'll have to look into. I hope you found that informative. If anybody's embarking on doing a conversion from free flight to radio control, you do have to do a little bit of creativity and head scratching in the process, but I think it's well worth the effort. It's very rewarding. The proof will be in the pudding, as they say. What's it like when it's all ready to fly, and does it fly? But I'm pleased with it up to now. I've enjoyed the process. I hope you have too. If you have, please consider subscribing if you haven't already done so, and a thumbs up helps spread the word to other modelers. Thanks for watching now.